I've been having interesting conversations with people about the last week or so. And it's kind of a spin-off between an episode I saw heard of This American Life. It's another podcast where they talk about how essential workers, not the what they call the first responders, not the nurses, the doctors, or the emergency service people, but what ended up being considered the essential workers in the restaurant business and in a couple other industries. And I started talking to, when I heard that episode, I started to think about my buddy's wife, because she works in the restaurant business. And the next time I saw them, which was actually the very next day after hearing that episode, I started talking to her about it, and she'd heard the episode as well, which I thought was very interesting. And we had a good conversation about that and how people have been dealing with that sort of stuff. My buddy is also been going through some situations with the whole pandemic. And what has happened as I listened to that particular episode is, again, it broadened my mind at how difficult it is for some people to deal with what's been going down, the lockdown and the overall pandemic and quarantining and all that stuff, and how slowly things are getting quote unquote back to normal. I completely disagree. I don't think things are getting back to normal. And as a matter of fact, I'm feeling a little pessimistic to where I do see that there's a second lockdown that's going to happen here pretty soon. But, I'm trying to stay positive. But the difference between me and other people, I think, is that I don't mind this. I don't care about going out and spending money and doing things. I don't care about going to bars as much. I care about certain things like live music. I certainly do miss that. But it's not a situation where I'm desperate to go out. I'm not desperate at all to go to a music festival. I mean, even if my favorite band was playing, I don't think I'd go. And I think the major difference where I think most of us have, or some of us had the luxury of a day job to where we can work from home. I certainly have that luxury, and the other people, a lot of people that I know also have that luxury. But while I thought that might have been a solution, what I'm finding out more and more, especially these last 6 months, and I mentioned this before, is that not everyone was equipped mentally and emotionally to deal with being locked down and not going out and doing things, to where some people that I know actually miss going to work. Can you believe that? People miss going to work, sitting in an office in a cubicle all fucking day, talking to people that they probably hate and dealing with traffic to and from work. This is what people are missing. I personally don't understand it, but after talking to a few people, it really is a situation where, and I do think that we've been programmed so much to where it's something that we need to do in order to feel, I don't know, like you're somebody in life. And the more I started to think about this is, I think that those of us that have a passion for something in life, and it's not necessarily a creative outlet, although I think it leads to that, those of us that have a passion in life probably dealt with this a lot better than those of us who don't create in any way, and those of us that don't really have anything artistic to do, and not necessarily just artistic, but something productive and creative that we can get into besides watching TV and besides going to work. And I think that is the biggest difference of how a lot of us were able to dive not just into our regular day job, but into our creative force, whatever that means, our creative endeavors, whatever that may be. I can definitely see how some people who maybe their goal and their hobby was to travel and to do things outdoors, I do think that was a hindrance, but I don't think it completely close down that avenue. You can still go out and do some things. You just can't fly internationally to some places, if that's what you were doing. If you're a painter, if you're a sculptor, I don't think that you were heavily affected by this unless, you had trouble getting material for your work. I, for one, as a photographer, and I was just thinking about this whole episode all day today, I am going to be doing some portrait work I'm doing a favor for a friend. And normally I would not be shooting this type of work. I don't want to go into how much I hate doing what I'm about to do, although I think you guys might guess what it is. But I was asked to do a favor, and I'm going to do it. And I was just thinking that my equipment, I hadn't brought out my camera or my lights or anything for 2 years. The beginning of August 2019 is the last picture I took on my digital camera, the big SLR fucking thing that I have. And I had to pull everything out and make sure everything still works. It still does. Of course, all the batteries are drained on every single one of the pieces of equipment that I have, the little radio triggers and the camera, of course, those batteries I had to recharge. And I wanted to make sure that the lights still work. So I hooked those up, and I hooked the whole thing up and make sure. And yeah, they still work. I don't mind telling you, and as a side note, I take very good care of my equipment. I've always had since the beginning. I've never tossed it around. I've never been very hard on my equipment other than just constant use. And because of that, I do notice that my equipment, especially my lights, knock on wood, have lasted a lot longer than the people in the forums and everyone, and even some of my other friends who've used the same lights. That they can attest that I've outlasted them using it. And again, it's because I take good care of it. So I'm sitting there and I'm thinking about, God, I hope all this works. And it does. I mean, like I said, I take care of the stuff. But as I'm sitting there thinking, I'm like, well, what's funny is that I didn't have any sort of desperate need to go out and make portraits and make landscapes and make things like that. I actually had a lot of work to do on my computer that had pertained to photography. And of course, I'd go out and still take the occasional photograph here or there and in the other, some street stuff and maybe a still life or so. Definitely not at the pace that I was doing it before the pandemic or before my health went crazy. But I do keep myself busy doing what I had to do as far as being creative and testing things. And of course, I talked about this before. One of the things that I was able to do on a more consistent basis as form to fill in for all that photography is taking a lot of video and learning how to edit and Premiere a lot better, the video editing software a lot better than I had before, learning new skills and filling a void from still photography and transitioning into video, which, that is how I filled my time, doing a lot of dash cam sort of videos and a lot of other things as well. So I liked that, I kept moving forward as far as filling in a creative void. The other thing that I did do as well is I really got into cooking. And I don't mind telling you the meal today was amazing. It was glorious. It was the first time I've made it 100% from, more or less from scratch. I mean, I didn't grow the vegetables, but I didn't use any canned food or any canned substances at all. Everything I made from scratch. And man, I don't mind telling you, I killed it. I hit it out the park. It was amazing. Opposite of what the fucking Padres are doing. Tell you goddamn right. I mean, they just fucking shit the bed on this. But never mind. We'll get back to non-baseball. And I do think that cooking is a creative field, help fill the creative void. And, of course, I always have podcasting and doing things with audio as well as video. and, doing my little music thing here and there, working on some things with my buddy as far as probably getting out and creating a band or something like that. That's probably, hopefully, might be able to hit it by the end of the year. All this I've been able to do because I like all of that stuff. And there's people who don't have any passion to do anything like that and don't do anything. And I think those are the ones that got hit the most, especially the fact about going crazy and, going, not being able to handle it mentally and emotionally, being locked down. And usually those are the people that have been screaming and shouting for the most part, not trying to label everybody as, a certain type of person, but it kind of feels that way. And so of course, the purpose of this podcast has been to give creative people ideas and talk to other creative people to help you on your workflow with your creative process overall. I wonder if at some point it's our responsibility as creative folk to help those that aren't creative, to help them be creative somehow. I don't know how much responsibility we have for that. And that's the question that I'd like to pose and throw out there in the universe is, how much responsibility do I have to help my friends be creative or have something that they can feel somewhat passionate about so that they have something besides work and the daily routine to fill their lives? And the knee-jerk reaction, of course, is, you fuck that. I do my thing there. Everyone's a grown adult. Do what you got to do and this, that, and the other, right? But I don't think we live in that world anymore. We live in the world where we have to communicate and throw ideas off of each other and, to a certain extent, respect the other person's point of view. Of course, there's a lot of crazy people out there right now whose point of view is just absolutely asinine. But we do kind of have to listen to it and see where they're coming from in order to understand why they have these ideas, right? And in doing so, the ability to understand someone and go, you know what? All right, without doing the, you know what I would do sort of thing, because that's one thing I fucking hate. I hate that, where, especially, if some of you know what I'm talking about. I'll just give you my example, like in a photography situation where someone looks at my work, and especially the people that have like zero experience doing it, and they're like, well, you know what I would have done? I would have done this, this, and this. And I'm like, you know what? You weren't fucking there. Especially with photography, you can kiss my ass. And I hate that, where, what you should have done was this. Oh, I would, and that's such a fucking bullshit cop out. I hate it. So without doing that to someone who might be I don't know, maybe someone's on the cusp of finding a creative flow, a creative process, something that they can, whether it be getting into video, whether it be photography, whether it be, hell, knitting and sewing, something, carpentry, something where someone learns a new skill and might even stick to it. And the other thing that adds on this is that for some reason a chess channel on YouTube came my way, and I'm looking at it, and it's people playing chess in New York. I guess they're trying to bring it back. There's leagues there. There's I guess you look at these. I don't know if you guys remember that one movie. I think it's called Clockers, where the kid is really good at chess. And he goes around strategizing how to beat the bad guys at the highest level, basically with chess strategies. I don't know if it's Clockers or, oh man, I'll have to figure that one out. But there's a little movie out there. And so this whole thing got me to thinking, okay, what if somebody learns how to play chess and goes out and about and starts talking to people and, doing things, at a safe distance or a social distance, practicing good health distancing. But I do think, like, all right, so what responsibility should I have with people that are closer to me and say, if you wanted to do this, I could help you do that. What would be the best approach in order not to be condescending and in order not to be looking down at someone that's not creative, but maybe help them on the right path. And while that, I think, it seems noble, I don't want it to be nosy. I don't want to get up in people's business. I mean, if people like being miserable, which could be a fucking thing, let them be miserable. But if you see someone, and I think it's part about being compassionate, is, take the extra step to go, hey, is there something that you'd like to learn and do, or something that I can help you with? Or, some of you guys are very well connected. You guys know someone who knows someone. I might not know how to draw or paint, but I know artists and painters, and, you can reach out and ask for suggestions. I don't know shit about carpentry, but I know a couple of people that do. I don't know anything. Hell, even if somebody wants to get into, somebody's been an accountant forever and a day, and they want to get into real estate, I know a couple of people too, and of course that's all a sort of a network that we can build a community so that people, I don't know, man, don't go very deep into this emotional fucking shit show that can happen if they don't have anything else to do, or if the routine is killing somebody, And again, the question remains is how much responsibility do we carry in that? And at one point, do we go, well, you know what? I tried. And, I think it's very easy to go, all right, so my brother, my cousins, my best friends in the world, it's easier to approach them and go and interact with them in this situation and go, you know what? You should do this, you should do that, because everybody's familiar. There's not that many degrees of separation. But if somebody hits you up online and wants to learn something, if somebody hits you up on the street and wants to learn something, how far as a human being am I going to go and try to help them be a more creative person without inhibiting their life? And without definitely fucking up my life. I mean, I'm not a saint. I'm just talking about being compassionate, but I'm not talking about going to somebody's house and painting their house. I'm not talking about teaching somebody full on how to do something. Like if you just happen, and what I mean by that is, if you happen to teach photography, I don't expect you to teach somebody photography for free. If you happen to be an artist, and I don't expect everyone to have the time to be able to just give it away. But I do think that there's a certain amount of preview, a certain amount of time, a certain amount of, let's just say, you get so many downloads for free, and then the real subscription starts, something like that, where I do think that we can have some sort of primer, some sort of starter to where we could go, okay, so you need this, this, and this, and then if you want to keep moving forward, and if you like it, bam, then you throw out a price or something. I don't know. I'm just spitballing here, but you guys know what I'm saying. And I guess the other end of it too is that I, for one, I'm not very comfortable telling people what to do in certain situations. And at the end of the day, I'm not very comfortable with somebody telling me to fuck off, especially if I'm trying to help. I don't want to get to the point where, like, it sounds like even though I'm trying not to, they perceive it to be like, what you should do. And then they come after me and then they go, you know what you should do? You should mind your own fucking business. And I think that's what is the bigger hang up for me, is like, getting rejected by the chick you want to take out, something like that. I don't know. But it really is I think a hurdle that maybe it in and of itself, trying to find a creative way to talk to somebody about being creative who normally isn't creative, I think that in and of itself would be some sort of creative outlet that we might be able to master or at least try to get better at. I don't know if it'll make us a better person. I don't know if it'll make us a better artist. I really don't know. But I think it might help somebody else for a second. And you know what? I think at the very least, now that I think about it, I think at the very least, hopefully what the other person takes away, at least this is what I'm hoping will happen. Hopefully what the other person can take away, even if they are completely not a creative person and not interested, hopefully the takeaway that the other person walks away with is, well, at least somebody gave a fuck enough to ask me to help out in a creative way, and I hope that they realize that, hey man, at least somebody's looking out for them, and I think that would make at least, maybe not the world a better place, but at least for that day, it would make somebody's day, like giving them flowers or something. And that's all I've been thinking about the last couple of days. I mean, I hope you guys have been doing well. I hope you guys have been healthy. And I hope to hang out with some of you guys really soon. I know that some things are starting to open up. I actually ended up going to and walking around with a couple of friends and had lunch with people, with my buddies at the Old Town. Had some decent Mexican food. And I walked around and acted like a tourist because I hadn't been to Old Town in ages. And I was surprised at how many people were out and about. And, we'll get into that a little later. But yeah, it's slowly but surely I'm coming out of my shell. And I hope to see a few of you out and about in the, playing music live and things like that. All right. Thank you so much for tuning in. This was the Common Rule Podcast. I am your humble narrator. My name is Danny. And you guys have a great day and enjoy your youth.